that, brother?
Well, yes, remember that, brother. Yes, we are live. Deep Space Nine at 9-ish. We are here again, Season 3, Episode 25, Facets. We're almost through with this episode, this season. We got one more left, but we are here to talk about Dax because we have to. But it's really not about Dax. It's about, well, it is about Dax. It's not about Jadzia, really. It's more about Dax. But we're going to get into that. Let's bring in our co-hosts first. I'm Jeff Mader, but first we have my brother, Dave Mader. Let's bring him on in. Dave, how are you?
Hello, I'm ready to talk about Starfleet's newest initiative, Nog, who's going right up for those root beers, you know. So hey,
Yes,
breaking it all down, and all of these past hosts, we finally get some more Jadzia Dax, where we find out the most interesting things about her, Jeff, her past lives. But
Not
she
really.
was
We
also,
found out-
but she was also the one who got back in. That makes her special.
sort of. I mean, I don't think we really learn a lot about Dax. I mean, about Jadzia. We learn a ton about Dax, but
We'll get to it. Like
it's confusing. It's two different. It's a lot of different people, but we'll get to that. All right, let's bring in Jameel Robinson. We have him here.
Remember
Jameel,
that,
how are you?
brother.
Remember that, brother.
I didn't know Rom was a Hulkamaniac.
That's all I thought of. All I could think about.
And if you ever do anything to hurt Nog again, I'll burn the board to the ground.
I'll put it down, brother.
It kind of was a wrestling promo. It's so true. Okay, let's also bring in. We haven't had him in a few weeks, but we have him now. The tag team couple, Kevin and Ashley Millard. How are you guys? Not in the Matrix.
Good. Yes, not in the Matrix.
Nope.
Are you excited to talk about all things Dax and not Jadzia?
We will not be talking about Dax tonight. We will be talking about all the previous hosts. You don't learn anything about Dax in this episode. It's all about the previous hosts.
Another hour at most.
True. Is Dax its own personality before it went into Leela?
presumably yes.
Or Lula, whatever the first one.
The Dax has a unique personality upon itself, and that's the part that this show never really fully explores. Although I feel like the little bit of discovery that we did get with Trills in season 3, I think they did a little bit more to explore this than maybe D Space 9 did.
In Discovery, you mean?
Yep. Yeah, in Discovery. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, but we're not here to talk about Discovery. That's a different podcast for a different time, Dave. Kind of like
it's all
Babylon 5
connected, Jeff. We're allowed to reference it. It's not like it's Babylon 5.
Oh God. I better hope that there's a reference to specific numbers. I think Dave asked for it.
Okay, so this episode is called. It's 47. Yeah, I'm sure there was a reference.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's looking for it.
I was not looking for it. That's for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was. Okay, so Facets, the name of this episode. So I looked up the definition of facet. It's basically, multi aspects of one thing. Like a diamond. It has many different sides, right? So that makes a lot of sense for what we're talking about here with Dax and all the different.
And Nog. This story is also a Nog story.
Okay, so what are the different facets and aspects of Nog's life? Is it the Ferengi versus the Starfleet mantras that we see kind of going at each other here between Nog and Quark?
Yeah, because Quark's playing this role of the disapproving father, even though he's the uncle in this situation, but he's the dominant. He's like the elder male of their family, and also he owns the bar and is their employer. So he has more of a position of authority over the rest of over Rom and Nog, historically. Although they're going for it, and we see that Quark is going to even get involved here. He really doesn't like it.
He knows enough to stay out of Starfleet.
Well, we also see. Okay, so we start this episode with Nog, doing. They don't tell us right away, but he's in a shuttlecraft, and it's basically a training program that he needs to get really good at in order to make it into the Starfleet Academy.
Yeah,
and he's obsessing over it. No matter he has to get it right. He's just going.
Jake's interrupting him, Jeff.
Well, no.
Get out of here, Jake! I'm in the middle of a simulation.
I was getting to that. Yeah, so this is actually kind of one of my favorite things because this is how like their setup is. It's just a green screen, and they have the set of the shuttlecraft. So I loved I don't think they've ever done this before, where they have somebody standing outside in space and just go like, "Hey, man," you know.
I feel like Voyager has probably done it at this point, or because their season 1 is going on at the same time that this is.
But wait a second. So like, if you're outside in space in a hollow deck, there's air.
It's not a vacuum in a.
You're not going to die on the holodeck by leaving the shuttle.
I guess if they turn off the safeties, it would become a real vacuum. But I don't even know how that would work. So,
right? Okay, yeah. So I liked that moment where Jake's just like, dude, like you were supposed to meet me half an hour ago, and it's because he's been obsessing over this program.
I said, get out of here.
He said, get out of here. He's got to figure this out. What do you guys make of this whole first scene? Jameel?
I liked it.
Dave's
sorry. I said I like.
He likes it a lot.
It was before he said the Jameel part.
Well, this is my show, Jameel. Go.
Well, I liked it. I would have liked it a lot more, but someone stole what I was going to say. So.
Okay, Kevin and Ashley, go.
Right.
I like this scene, and I like it for the exact reason that you stated already, Jeff. That it's jarring actually when you see Jake outside of the shuttlecraft. It's pretty neat, yeah. And I don't think Voyager really does this. I don't recall it in Voyager.
They're not as memorable.
Okay, so is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Dave, I know you're holding back. What do you got? What do you want to know about? Okay, so after they leave the holodeck and we get the little scene with like basically Quark kind of telling him there's no profit in this and what are you doing, and do you like all the multifaceted arguments that
there's no profit in that?
Yeah, okay, here. I have a counter argument. I think that there is an obvious profit motive even for Nog to join Starfleet, because even though they don't pay you to be in Starfleet, the skills and experience he will gain, especially as the first Ferengi in Starfleet, makes him almost priceless. And his career potentials post his Starfleet career should, because when you join Starfleet, you don't have to join till the day you die. It's presumably that one day you might get out of the service like Spock and do another career afterwards. So
right. I compare it to Dave, though. I compare it to like, imagine like being a Rockefeller and your son is like, I'm going to go join the military. He's like, what are you doing? Like that's kind of that's kind of like what I get from it.
It's more like maybe it's more like you're a Rockefeller and you're like, I'm going to join like the Japanese fighter pilot squadron, and I'm going to, it's like, well, that's not very practical when you come back to run the Rockefellers or whatever, but that's cool that you'll know how to fly a fighter jet for another country or something. It's not that I think that there's just like that disconnect, and I think that also Quark, like we saw later, that Quark, a lot of it seems to be rooted in his fear for Nog's safety, because Starfleet's a dangerous job. Quark has seen this firsthand. He's literally across the hall from the infirmary, where definitely people die,
and the security office.
And the security office, for that matter,
And Odo's on the station too, so if they happen to be walking side by side,
that's
who knows what could happen.
Okay, so we also get the great lines, but maybe one of my favorite parts of this episode, when Quark says, "Why don't you be more like Jake and become a writer?" And he's like, and Nog says, "What? What do you mean? There's no profit in writing." He's like, "Actually, if you write sexy holosuite programs, there's a lot of profit in that." And I love Jake's reaction. He's like, "I bet there is."
I bet, yeah.
I love that Quark tries to get the station commander's son to write porn.
Yeah. He's like, there's a lot of money in this. Legal.
And he's like, I'm even going to bankroll it.
Bankroll it.
I'll bankroll it. You don't join Starfleet. And then they're like, no. He's like, fine.
All right, fine.
Make porn.
Join Starfleet.
Don't join Starfleet. Make porn.
Well, I don't understand. Like, why does Starfleet want the lousiest stock boy in the Alpha Quadrant?
You make a lousy stock boy.
He doesn't make a good stock boy because he's meant to be a Starfleet officer.
There you go. I guess it's.
Well, that's not true. We learned later on that he's fantastic at stacking chairs behind a bar.
It's true.
That's right.
He's just a terrible stock boy because he doesn't care. It's not what he wants to do with his life.
Not motivated.
That's right.
That's no excuse for Rengi.
All right. Well, okay, Jeff. We got to get to the Jintara, though. We got to get to talk about this trill business.
Well, actually, we have to talk about something else first. This is the first confirmation that we get of Bashir and Lita are dating. We have a scene with Odo and Bashir walking through the hall before we get to the boardroom to talk about this Jintara thing. Yeah. So, what do you guys make of this?
She's too good for him.
How do you think Nana Visitor felt about this?
They're not married anymore, so maybe not so good.
I mean, at the time, she's just
at the time, not now. Like,
Okay, so she's Bajoran. She has red hair.
Yeah, taller Nana Visitor.
Yeah, more flexible, it seems.
Yeah, and they even make a point in this episode. She's like, "Thank you for this great body," like the one host says. So they do make points of it. And Kira,
this scene right here, though,
yeah,
this made me laugh because Jadzia says, "You're the 7 people I'm the closest to on the station."
Yeah,
Lita.
Yes. Lita
has only had one other scene before this. We've barely been introduced to her by this point. We know her name, and that I think Bashir wants her to cough, or something like that. Yeah. Where is that? Oh dear.
Cough for me.
And then he got her a Fernelli and Toddy, very hot, and now they're
Bring me a Fernelli and Toddy, very hot.
Who should be there instead of Lita? Rom? Like who does Dax feel better on the station than Lita? That's my question. Like,
what? Well, Jake is the principal, not included.
Yeah. So
what about that guy with the clear skull?
He's underage.
True.
To do what? Be like a host to one of these past hosts?
Maybe a consent thing. He
was probably like, I need another woman. Or she was like, Bashir, I need you to meet me. And he's like, okay, but Lita has to come. And she's like, fine. I need another woman anyway.
I guess there's no one else. I don't know who else there would be.
I think
Ellington.
He just invited Bashir's girl.
Hey, where's Eddington? Where's Michael Eddington?
He hasn't been on the show in a while.
She's not close to him. Fuck him.
Yes.
My lucky loony.
Okay, so we find out what the Jintara is. Basically, Dax wants everybody to connect with this thing called a guardian, who's a Trill, and basically takes her memories from her brain and puts it into one of their brains, and then they become that person for a temporary amount of time. And that's called the Jintara, because that's one of the words.
Jintara. What's that?
Right. I just explained it, Quark. You don't.
Well, I was only ever going to use it once, and we're already into it. I was like, oh, I should have told you. I had that.
This is the problem with your sound.
Yeah, sometimes they're yeah.
I don't know what's on your soundboard.
No, we don't know. That's how it goes. It's a mystery. Keep going. Okay. You were doing great.
Oh, I thought so. Okay. we have the Jintara. So I just explained what it is. The only person with reservations is Quark, which I find interesting about his character. Like,
you wanted me to lend my body to some dead person, I believe was his how he summed it up.
And then Dax kind of plays dirty pool. I mean, or Jadzia does.
She
plays a little dirty
basically
pool.
grabs his dick in front of everyone.
Yeah, she grabs his dick in front of everyone and says, "I really want you to do this."
Grabs
I
his
think it will
lobes.
make us closer.
Not his actual dick, but yeah, it's close.
I guess yeah.
She gave him umox in front of everyone.
Yeah.
No shame.
Cisco looks and starts nodding in approval. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. He kind of goes, yes, Jadzia. Like it is in my head. That's what he's thinking.
This is exactly what Jake was.
Pretty girl, Jadzia. Very pretty.
Can we talk about some of the accents?
Yes.
First of all, okay, we have to get to this scene first, but the accents, especially with Kira and Cisco, are really interesting. Like,
Yeah, I think we have to. Let's go through all 7 of them. We'll go through in the order that they're presented. Okay. Yeah, but
let's go. Let's talk about this scene with Nog and O'Brien first.
It's just
okay.
Screwed with you now.
Just try. Okay, so he's basically saying to O'Brien's saying to Nog, we have to take this one day at a time. You can't complete all this work in a couple hours. I know how bad you want this, but it's
even Wesley Crusher.
Basically.
I knew Wesley Crusher on the Enterprise, and he couldn't fast track like this, Nog. And you're no Wesley Crusher. Is that what you think? Is that what you think he thinks?
I think a little bit.
Because O'Brien says at the end.
Yeah.
As soon as that kid graduates from the academy, I'm going to have to call him sir.
Right. And so I guess maybe he's like, I got. For now, I have the upper hand on this, but one day he's going to be ordering me around because I'm just a chief petty officer.
Well, and then O'Brien goes back to become a professor at the end. So ultimately, he becomes a teacher at the academy to cadets. So this is presumably what he did in his later years.
Outside of saving the galaxy a multitude of times.
So that's
yes, of course,
and that's a nice foreshadowing, actually, Dave. We actually get a lot of that in this episode, and some of it unintentionally. Okay, so these Jantara, there's preparations to be made. People need to go into a room and light a candle, and this guy needs to do this. Weird
do you want to hear the Trill language? It's quite interesting.
Sure, I'm sure you have a soundbite.
I know Rajakaladax. Janshi Lilatanus Rem, Gandar Jadzia Tor, Jadzia Jantaravak, Tu Dax Jantani Res, Janpa Lila Garuko.
Unclear on what I was supposed to get from that.
Yeah,
it sounds kind of like Hindi.
To me, it's like they're speaking in tongues, like how some of those religious people in the States, they're like,
it sounds like Jar Jar Binks's language. It does.
Right.
Gongar.
Yeah. It's like this weird. It's like, what is going on here? Because I think even for the first time I watched it, this plays like a kind of magic, right?
Yeah, it's almost like it's not real. Is he actually transferring energy?
Why are the words necessary?
It seems like, you know what? I feel like I'm watching an episode of Supernatural when this is going on.
Or Babylon 5?
You got Dean and Sam. They're
Babylon 5 would never do anything this hokey. They were real serious about their spiritual and mystic things.
Okay.
And that's why nobody watched it.
Yeah, they were very serious.
I watched it.
Okay, so we get the first host, Leela, played by Kira.
No.
Kira? No.
Leela.
Yes, and she's where she gets putting the hands behind her back because she used to be very handsy and would point at things, and she had to control that. So that's why Jadzia never seems to act with her hands. It's always very stern, very, that's Jadzia.
Yeah,
because of Leela. And
this whole first scene. Sorry,
we start to learn that everything we know about Jadzia, nothing to do with Jadzia. That's what I get.
Some of it. No, I think some of it. But we find out, that she didn't become a Klingon martial artist until after. And there's certain things but there were certain things that she did on her own. She had her scientific degrees. She was this one who got dropped out of the program, and she came back. Which was apparently unheard of, but she got back. Yeah,
Dave, these are accomplishments, not personality traits.
Well, we don't know how promiscuous she was or wasn't before. We don't know because her family never comes into the show, so we don't know. We don't get any frame of reference. We never meet a character who knew Jadzia before.
Yeah.
Other than Curzon. Curzon's the only one.
Well, but she's obviously not someone who gives up because she washed out of the program and then came back and reapplied. So that's a personality trait. She's a fighter.
She's got strong will.
She's very persistent. Okay, I'll give her that. But we also learned in this episode that she doesn't take criticism or doubt well. Like this whole episode is kind of about Curzon doubting her and not believing she was worthy, basically, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that's kind of, those are two things I guess we do learn about Jadzia in this episode that are different. But for the most part, like a lot of her actions and a lot of the things that we learn about these other hosts, aren't nothing to do with Jadzia or Dax, like you mentioned, Ashley. So it is interesting.
They really try to make these hosts different from one another. They're trying to make them distinct, and I think they do a pretty good job. Like that, they were all unique individuals, but they're all Dax. And I guess the one thing that this episode doesn't do a good job of is like, what is the common thread of Dax? I feel like that's what they did do better in Discovery with the tall character.
Or what is the criteria for joining? Because all of these characters are so different.
That's kind of the point.
None of them are really that impressive. Like they don't seem like they're that impressive. They're all like neurotic and quirky and weird.
Like Duran.
Well, yeah.
Let's move.
What about O'Brien?
Yeah, let's move on to Tobin, who was played by O'Brien, who's biting his nails constantly.
I guess
says sorry every 2 seconds. He's basically
Canadian.
He's kind of
sorry. I guess.
Yeah. He's very nervous in the service, I guess is the best way to describe him. And so,
sorry.
Right, sorry. But he's smart. He's very smart, and he's so he's kind of like the manic genius, I would say, of the host. What do you guys make of Tobin?
I'd agree.
Yeah, that seems to be what he is. That's how he's kind of like the bookworm nerd shy version. But it would have been interesting to know how Tobin was changed by Leela. All of that past experience from Leela and Dax coming into him when he was joined. But being so early, that's kind of like that's the other thing that I would have liked more from like the Kira scene with explaining like I was the first host, so Dax was a blank slate, or I was the first host and the Dax symbiote already had a disposition for this or that or whatever. Like what was that joining like? Because that sort of left ambiguous.
I do think they spend too much time on the Curzon stuff. I like it, but I wish we got a little bit more of like the Leela backstory, like you're mentioning, Dave. Or it's like I think it's like a 15-second scene where he says sorry about 15 times. So,
yeah, we got to rip through these hosts like really like especially the first 4 or 5. Like they're really quick.
Yeah.
Right. So then we get Lita, not to be confused with Leela. And she is joined with who? Who's her?
Emily. She's Emily.
Emily. Okay. And she's the like acrobat kind of
gymnast.
Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil. She banged McCoy.
Oh, she did.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Right.
When he was just a med student at Old Miss, he had the hands of a surgeon.
Yes.
Okay. Then we get the scene with Quark, which is really great because as we had Umok being given to Quark earlier in the season, Jadzia gets her hair brushed by Quark, who is what's his
Audred.
What's the
Right behind the day I gave birth to my first
Audred,
child,
like
holding a baby to your breast.
Sorry.
He didn't realize that was a female name.
So this justifies the Umoks in Jadzia's mind because the humiliation Quark goes through by having to like brush her hair and say, sit down and feel better about yourself. And it was like this nurturing mother type who was apparently the head of the Symbiosis Commission as well. Like Quark has to kind of go through that for quite a while.
How much longer am I going to have to do this?
These sound. There's a lot of these sounds, Dave.
I'm not even done.
Really,
Jeff,
you're really popping them off.
I used to.
Will you stop doing that? It's very distracting.
Good, Dave.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. What was I about to mention? Because it's throwing me off, Dave. I had a thought.
How much longer am I going to have to do this?
You guys are completely off track right now. Both of you like out of sync.
Okay, Jeff. Sorry, I'll play less sounds.
Maybe
I have them. Maybe.
Okay, did you feel like we got a Moogie vibe from Quark here?
Moogie.
Well, how do
That was
I
a
turn
cue for
that
you to play the
down now?
Moogie.
It's a motherly vibe, but not Moogie.
No, she's not as motherly.
She's
That's
more
true.
like Quark normally.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So maybe Quark's more like Quark's dad.
Quark's dad was
Yeah.
a lot like Rom, apparently.
Was more like Rom.
Right.
And just like Quark's dad disappears shortly after.
Okay, my favorite was actually Bashir's Tarius.
I had an
Live a
issue with
little.
this. I had an
What
issue
did you
with
make
this.
of Tarius, Jameel?
Should there not be like warning bells for Bashir that this other person took over his body? That like especially with what we learn about Bashir as well, and that never came up. Don't you think it should have? Just like how it came up with Odo.
Oh yeah.
Well, Odo was different though. Odo was a shapeshifter, so like the whatever they did, like the what's it called, the Jintara, it affected Odo differently than.
But we did see though, Jeff, that Lita was affected. Like obviously, Lita was the host for Emily, and she's like, "Oh, this body's amazing." So in theory, Bashir's genetically enhanced body would be different from the body that whoever Bashir is with. Like wherever
That would have
host
been
he's-
cool if they had shown like Bashir, like they didn't reveal it, but like Bashir was like, yeah, like hitting the dart 20 every single time or something like.
Or
like
maybe
that,
there's some
like
kind
his
of an
body would-
arrangement between the two of them where, like, I don't know, like we don't see if like the host talks to the consciousness really or the memories, but we saw that Quark was able to say, "Hey, I want to say something," so he was
Yes,
like,
obviously they can hear what the body is thinking.
"Yeah."
Like,
So there's some kind of dialogue there.
No, but
Yeah.
shouldn't also Dax be able to absorb some of the information or the memories of that meeting? And
Yes, because she does remember what it was like for Curzon to be a shapeshifter.
but that was because it was different for Curzon and Odo because he was a shapeshifter. They melded. It wasn't the one
I
mind taking
guess.
over the other. They melded into like a Curzon Odo.
Into a Tuvix.
Yes.
Yeah, justice for
Tuvix.
Odo.
Kurzodo voluntarily separated, and they were both fine.
Odo's on.
They were shamed into separation.
For Kurzdo.
But Leela says that her last memory is talking to Curzon at his Jantara.
Right.
So that would mean that they do retain the memories from being in the bodies.
Yes.
Ooh.
They retain their own memories, maybe not the host's memories.
Right.
But they
Yeah,
would,
see-
but the one that's in Bashir would remember the body and
Yeah, that's true. I
and
guess.
the genetic enhancements.
Ooh.
Well, maybe not. You might not know it's genetically enhanced. Just it's superior. Kind of like Lita said. Oh, this is
Yeah,
a great
maybe
body.
that's the
Might have
first
just.
time he's ever been in a human and just thinks that's how human bodies are.
It's like humans rock, man. This is
He
great.
doesn't find it anything special, so it doesn't go in like
And-
it's not
Okay.
a memory he holds on to.
I can buy
I do
that.
think it's
They
important to.
They didn't know yet. That's why.
I think it's important to mention also with Bashir the things that he is talking about as Tarius. He's like, "Yeah, you need to enjoy the finer things in life," and
He
he's kind
says
of
the
like,
simple pleasures.
Life's too short to deprive yourself of the simple pleasures.
As he puts his hand over a flame.
Well, you should tell your friend to live a little.
Live a little.
Live a little.
I
Live
love
a
the way he
little.
plays it. Yeah, he's kind of doing a Sean Connery thing, you know. Like, at least in my head, he is. Okay, so let's get to kind of like the middle part of this episode, which is the whole Duran drama, which they mentioned in the first scene, but I kind of left it for now because there's a bunch we need to talk. Duran is the evil host. The
Discovered
bad guy.
in was that in this season? Was that the begin? That was the beginning of this season, season 3, right? The Equilibrium episode. Remember how long that seems like so long ago that we talked about that, but that was the Duran was only set up this season. That storyline.
Yep.
So
I do think that like every time we get a Jadzia episode, I often really think about the the difference between her and Kira on the show, because Kira, the station is right beside her homeworld. We get a lot of Bajoran stories, interactions with the Bajorans. Every time we get a Dax episode, it's like one person has come from very far away to come here to do a ritual to explain everything, and then that's gone for another 10 episodes, and then we'll do it again. That's kind of like, I can't help but compare the two characters. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way?
So she's basically Balky from Perfect Strangers.
Right.
Like basically
do the dance of joy.
Like during sweep season, someone will come from the old country and disrupt things, and they'll have an episode of wackiness, and then it'll just go back to normal. Like the person won't stay. There's no like lingering, elements. It just goes back to Larry Appleton and Balky.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so let's get into this Duran stuff. Okay, so first of all, Cisco's the one that's going to do Duran because Dax trusts Cisco the most to do this.
And this is the most dangerous.
Most dangerous. So they put him into a cell, like in Odo's back of Odo's office, and then they just leave.
Yeah.
Which why?
Very private meeting.
Why?
This one could have been supervised. I feel like it would have been okay.
Or have his
Odo
arms
should have been
wrapped.
Or skip it entirely like they did with every other host.
Yeah, it gets a lot of play. Okay, but what do you guys think?
Jadzia will be the first one to go through the Gentara with Duran.
Yeah.
Yes, because Curzon didn't have it because it was suppressed when Curzon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dialogue though between Cisco as Duran and Dax is really good. I really enjoyed this scene. Do you guys like Kevin and Ashley? Like, what stands out to you in some of the things that he says to her in this scene?
Well, just his manipulation. He tries to tear her confidence down immediately.
Yep.
And to get her to let him go.
Which is a good timing for him to be doing it too, because she's got Curzon coming up next, because she's already nervous about meeting. So it just makes that meeting that much worse. I enjoyed Avery Brooks's acting, just over the topness of this scene. It's a fun scene to watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jameel, like, what kind of stands out for you in this scene? Like, do you think it stands out over the Curzon stuff? Like, for me, I kind of like I'd rather watch this scene because it is shorter and we get more explained with the Curzon stuff. I'm kind of more interested in the Duran stuff.
Do you like the length of this? Because honestly, like stuff like this kind of makes me angry when like everything has to be so episodic, especially portions like this. How interesting would it be if this took place over the course of 2 episodes and this part was leading up to the cliffhanger of the first episode, right? You would have to have a stronger B storyline, right? But at the same time, it's interesting to see what happens if Duran cannot leave Cisco, right?
Yeah.
What happens? And let's say there's an emergency and they need his override codes or something. There you go. I just wrote the end of the episode leading into the 2-parter, right? Yeah. It just seems interesting. I would feel. I felt that when Cisco was performing, it wasn't like Cisco playing something. It seemed like a brand new character altogether, which is what I enjoy. Like, Avery Brooks is a weird dude. And like you can see in he is, right? But you can see in his performances, it's interesting how he approaches things. And that's one of the awesome things that you get from such a weird guy, right? His approaches to characters. It's like if O'Brien was playing this, I feel it would be a little hammy. But this works.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I've always wished this was a little longer. There was a little more with the Duran, because even the one in the 7th season with Esri is good. It's one of the better episodes with her. So I like the Duran thing.
I think all those Durans are so different. Like the one we meet, like the backstory we get in this Equilibrium episode earlier in season 3 in Equilibrium, and now this version, which is a very maniacal version. Which when we last saw Duran, it seemed like Jadzia had made peace with the Duran part of her past, of the Dax past, but that seems not to be the case. I think they just wanted to do something really intense and scary and let Avery Brooks do like he's a professor of acting, man.
Banging
It's
his
good
head
to
against
see
that
you
force
again,
field.
Jadzia.
Sorry,
They
what?
should have just had an all Duran episode and call it Duran.
Banging his head against the force field. He only does that once.
He was telling me,
no, like I'm not.
listen to this one. Tell me if you've been practicing your music.
Tell me, have you been practicing your music?
Is that creepy or what?
Oh yeah, he went full creep. Like,
And then he
he's
goes-
basically Hannibal Lecter in this scene.
Yeah.
Dude,
And-
he was like doing. He's like, that Anthony Hopkins has got nothing on me.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think
If
of
he had
me
done,
when you play?
Sometimes.
I'm glad.
And then, of course,
Okay, so on this scene, yeah, Dave.
well, and then I
Cisco,
replayed it.
Cisco thanks Jadzia for not breaking any bones. Once, like, I love the moment where like she thinks it's Cisco, and then he just grabs her throat.
With one hand, and she's like, I can't get away. Nobody's going to grab you with one hand around the neck, and you
Klingon
can't just
martial
step
arts.
back.
Yeah, especially since she knows Klingon martial arts.
Yeah, we're to show it off.
I had that as a.
Oh, wait. He's looking for it.
I did pull it. Good thing you guys brought that up because I did pull it, but I didn't put it in the board.
I'm an expert in Klingon martial arts.
There we go.
Jeff, you just got to leave a little bit of runway for him to just take off with the
You're
line.
a very pretty girl, Jadzia.
That's
Very
not the way he says her name.
Pretty.
This one's going to get so muted so much, dude.
Yeah, the problem with this is we don't know when the sounds are coming and when they end. So it's hard to know when to start talking. And then
I know. I know.
Jameel wasn't even done talking there, and you started playing Jadzia, so pretty. You know,
I know. It's a little distracting.
Will you stop doing that? It's very distracting.
Thank you.
You can't help yourself.
Okay. We get to see. We get to see next with Rom and Quark. Rom brings in a cadet uniform that he just had made by Garrick, who we don't see in this episode, but he's mentioned. And for 5 shirts of Latinum, and Quark tells him that's a waste of time, and he's gonna get a uniform anyway once he gets into the academy. So, like, what are you doing? He's like, well, then you'll have 2.
Yeah,
You know,
no, he was
and we
had the
get-
suspicious looks. He had this because he's like, now Rum's wasting his money on that, and I've already sabotaged Nog.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, this isn't working out for me. My favorite part of this scene, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it's Morn. It's Morn and the lady that he's sitting next to. And
There's something going on there, yeah.
they're talking to each other. And then there's this other guy that steps up and it looks over and sees the uniform. I'm so distracted by the background in this episode, in this scene. Like, I don't know why, but Morn and the other guy, they're talking to each other, but there's no talking. They're just going like this.
Isn't it like
I
a
love
scene
it.
from like Community where it's like in the background they have like an entire like storyline that you don't, if you pay attention to, like you see it happening, you're like, oh, Abid just gave birth, helped someone give birth in the background, and it's never gonna get brought up, never. This
Okay, so then
Warren had the C storyline.
Yeah, he did. More had the Zed storyline. Okay, so then we have a little scene here with Cisco and Dax walking after the Duran incident, and they're kind of talking about like, okay, Curzon's coming up. This is the big one, you know. And they also talk about a little bit about Duran, and they were talking about, but they mainly talk about Curzon. Like, did you deserve this? All this doubt comes into Jadzia's mind of like, why did she get rejected, and you know, what was it? What did Curzon have against her? That's kind of the main.
Why
question
doesn't
of
she
this
know?
episode. It's a good question because
She has Curzon's memories at this point. She should know already.
Didn't Curzon? So did Curzon suppress them? Was it not clear?
That's the part of the logic in the story that it falls apart for me a little bit, because if it's suppressed, then that's not quite explained, that it's unsuppressed now, or it's been like sort of resolved. Although, like, I think that this is interesting where, you know, you were joined at the time, and then now the future host is someone you already had a relationship with, or you know, sort of what that does. Like having the memories of both sides of a conversation, I think would be kind of weird.
That's true. It could like not overlap.
Do you think Jadzia values Curzon's opinion over all the other hosts? Like, it's like he's the most important, or are they equal? Like, what do you guys make of? Like, I feel like she puts the most importance on him. I know the show is as well, but do you think she does?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
she knew him.
And
she knew him.
And also, he was like a legend at the time that she was going through this whole situation. So, like, you can't help but be in admiration of a living, breathing legend, as opposed to people who you've read about in like a past tense, right? You don't really see the shine that's there. It's in a book. It's flat. It's two-dimensional, and you see this three-dimensional icon at that point, especially among the trills. Curzon had like a wide like set of memories and was in such high regard. Of course, you know, she would put his opinion over anything.
Okay, so we get the scene here where the Guardian puts the Curzon's memories, you know, we do that whole ritual, and we get this version of Odo. And the first thing that occurs is, you know what, Jadzia, she's not gonna ask the big question she wants to ask. No. Curzon / Odo is gonna go get drunk with Cisco at Quark's. That's the plan. And this is also part like where it loses me. Like, you know, it's like, if that's like, they just had a conversation about how important this is to Jadzia. And the first thing is, you know what, Jadzia? I don't want to talk to you. I want to go get drunk. You know, it's basically.
I think that explains Curzon's personality.
Mm-hmm. Like, he's avoiding it.
Not just avoiding it, but he's now on the station with his best friend that he hasn't had an actual conversation with in years, and he can go and see him, and he wants to do his own thing and fuck everyone else.
Yep. Exactly.
Right.
That.
Jadzia should. My point is, why doesn't Jadzia care a lot, like right at the beginning? Like, if I was like, I really had this big question that I needed to ask to this person. The person appears, and then he's like, you know what, I don't want to talk to you.
I think she does care. I think she's too timid to say anything to him.
And
it was his job to literally judge her too.
Yeah.
So that you'll have that kind of dynamic between them.
At the same time, she also understands the connection she has to Cisco, right? And it's like, you know, how often do you have your host or your memories come to life and be able to, like, she knows that Cisco cares about him as well. So this is the few moments that they can have together before who knows what could happen. So
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
But I think we're burying the lead here. I want everybody, while the picture's still up, to just imagine the rest of this series with that hair. How much better
I was going to mention that, Kevin, because, you know, we're going to get to the part of the plot where Curzon and Odo want to stay together. And I, like, watching it, I was like, if we were watching this for the first time, I would not be surprised if they had made this permanent, because Odo's kind of a wet blanket of a character. And he's fun, like, in certain ways, but, like, he doesn't have a ton of dimension. And as an actor, I would imagine Rene Auberjonois would have way more fun playing this version of Odo than, you know, playing the version he does play. You know, what do you guys think of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Avery Brooks's performance, but Rene, his performance is incredible in this too. That's right. I'm not even attempting his name.
I just love that pause.
Auberjonois?
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Auberjonois. I do think that this version of you could still get all the Odo stuff that we get later on, and if they kept this version of Curzon in the body, I think it would have been fun. But It would have been like taking a part of Jadzia away, which is the whole point of this episode. And so
it could have been at least a part of a two-part the B story of a two-part episode where Duran takes over the station.
Yes, thank you.
And then Jadzia and Curzon have to stop him.
Oh,
yeah.
I would love that.
I have no time for fantasies.
All right, Dave, good job on that one.
Jeff, you're telling me you would not want to see that?
No imagination, indeed.
No, I would.
That would be a
I wonder
season finale.
I wonder if we get into like fun facts, like if there was an idea to maybe make this longer or stretch this out, because like I said, I think Jadzia gets robbed from the writers. Like
they don't have
every
confidence.
Episode
in
of
her.
hers is like they don't have confidence in her story. It's not the actress, I don't think. It's the character.
It is the actress. I don't think they believe in her, right? To like have depth in her performance, because I think they thought of her as more of a model who they were going to give lines to, which is kind of true. That she wasn't like a super accomplished actor. She got better. She learned on the job. I think she was partly brought in for a certain look they wanted to go for.
But Eddington gets a ton of runway next season, right? But she's the model, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Javert.
Yeah. Maybe you're right, Dave. Like maybe it was just a confidence actress, but I think it has a little bit to do with the character and how I think for the layman viewer watching this character that has like 9 different personalities put into one and try to fit that into a 40-minute to 2-minute episode is very difficult to get everyone like to understand. Like everyone understands Kira, right? She was in the occupation, she was a resistance fighter. It's very straightforward. Dax's story is so much different, like, and I do think maybe a part of it is how much they really need to explain about who she is.
It's not that
as a
hard.
person.
It's not that hard, you know. It's like she's like they do a lot with the backstory, but it's kind of like a Doctor Who kind of character with all like these lifetimes of backstory. But the Jadzia personality is we have no context. There's nothing. It's
to me
empty.
a good comparison for this is the movie Split. If you movie and they talked about like there was like 11 different personalities or something like that, but the majority of the lines are delivered only with 3 or 4 personalities. Okay, that there's a reason for that. People get confused. They even said that when they were writing, like M. Night Shyamalan was writing that movie. He's like, if I gave you like all the different characters, you get confused at a certain point. Like you know who they are, sure, but understanding their motivations and all these different things is difficult to comprise into one episode. You know. And so that's why we only get that short Duran scene. That's why we only get, Tarius, for 2 seconds putting his hand over the fire, or Tobin telling him we're sorry for about 10 seconds, because they can't do it. That's how I look at it. I don't know.
Sorry.
Maybe if they had done a 2-part episode, they could have fit it.
It's the only explanation.
True. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so then we kind of get into the whole Curzon stuff, which we get the first confrontation of Jadzia walking into Odo/Curzon's office here and kind of just saying, like, I need to know, like, why you rejected me, right? And he doesn't really answer her right away, correct?
He changes the subject immediately, to be more exact. Yes.
He deflects, he changes the subject. And she doesn't really, like you said, Kevin, it's a great point. His job was to judge her. And that's a tough position for the person who was judged to be like, why did you judge me in this way? It's a tough question to ask. And it's the majority of this episode is what we deal with. And he says, I felt sorry for you. Did he?
Well,
he
no.
says he says he finds out later that he says he was in love with her.
But
he
was
watched
sorry.
her out of the program because he was in love with her. Did he also pull her pigtails and push her down in the dirt? Like, I hate this.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it either. Like, and I don't like it's the majority of the episode. I like Curzon, like I understand, but the motivation explanation with Jadzia is not my favorite. Dave, what do you make of it?
Well, I thought that the Curzon thing was interesting. I think the legend of Curzon for these 3 seasons has been set up quite a bit, and I think we get this payoff here in Rene Auberjonois' performance, and I think it was a smart thing to pair them up. I think it was a good. I thought that like the ending of this story and what Jadzia and Odo get out of this whole thing is really strong. I think that their final scene is really good and poignant and has a nice stamp on the end of the episode. And there's a lot of good themes explored here. I think they do a good job in this episode mostly.
Yes.
There's this whole storyline with Nog, plus there's this whole thing with Dax. But yeah, like I think that there's things still about Jadzia we don't know, and there's problems, but overall I was really happy with what they did with Curzon in this episode.
I felt like I was watching Loki again.
What do you mean, Jameel?
You know what I mean.
Okay.
You know what I mean, Jeff. You know what I mean.
Check out our podcast from Saturday where we talked about Loki.
You know what I mean, Jeff. Just give me that acknowledgement.
Over on Super Mater Brothers podcast.
On Super Mater Bros podcast, we did a 3-hour episode, guys.
He's not going to do it.
But you know what I mean, Jeff. Do you?
No.
What?
He's not going to do it. Jameel's not going to stop. This is our life.
Curzon and Dax.
Yeah. Kind of like
In
Sylvie
love.
and Loki.
Yeah,
So kind of like.
There you go. Okay. Continue.
I didn't want to ruin it for spoilers.
Man, it's a week and a half, man.
Yeah, it's true. If you haven't watched it yet, I mean, what are you doing? Stop living
Or I could
under
be
a
lying.
rock. Okay, so we got the moment here where Odo / Curzon says, "We're not leaving. We're staying as this." Too
I
bad.
love being a changeling.
Right. Yeah. Of all the hosts, Curzon got the best deal. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's a big moment because like I said before, I was like, maybe they will do this permanently. Like, I mean, like maybe that would have been a good idea. I kind of like it. I mean, because you still get all the Odo stuff, but he's not the same person. And then it would be really weird down the line with Kira and Odo if they were, if Odo was still Curzon, So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So we have a scene here with Jadzia and Cisco talking to the Guardian, like, what's going to happen, like, if we can't rejoin them? And the Guardian says, well, it's going to take a little while to adjust, but should be okay.
I was surprised as hell by this. Like, why would the Guardian be okay with it?
I want to know why the Guardian in the first place said it shouldn't be a problem. What the fuck does the Guardian know about changelings at all?
Yes.
Like, how, like,
right. Why did they pick Odo? Because Odo is the one that doesn't really have a brain,
Yeah.
So you're transferring consciousness here.
They only had one leader. They didn't have another Dabo girl to come and be the seventh.
It made no sense. That whole thing. Like, why he should not be okay with it. The other thing too was about this Guardian guy, Jeff, was that he shows up and says, we've been trying to get Jadzia to come back to the homeworld for some time to do her Shintara, which made me think about, okay, but Curzon apparently had his Shintara way later in life because he said he was talking to a younger Cisco about it. So why I don't understand the timing. Is there a certain year you're supposed to do a Shintara in, or a certain amount of time after you've been joined? That part was weird to me.
How old was Curzon when he got the Dax symbiote? Did they ever explain that in this show?
No.
So he might have been a little bit older.
Well, it would have been before he met like Kang and Koloth and those guys, presumably.
Kang? That's a different show.
Kang the Klingon, Kang and Koloth and Kor.
Oh, Kang the Conqueror. That's
watch the 3-hour super. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, Jeff.
3-hour Super Mater Brothers episode that just recently aired talking about Loki. Don't you dare miss it.
Don't miss it. We break every episode down. We get right into it. Okay, so we get this confrontation scene between Rom and Quark, which Dave has played the sound a few times. Remember that, brother?
Remember that, brother.
Yeah. All the Hulkamaniacs out there, we want Nog to go to Starfleet. I love it.
Let me tell you
If
something,
you ever
brother.
do anything to hurt Nog again, I'll burn the boy to the ground.
Yeah. I am a real Ferengi.
Well, okay. Here, just a thing on that, because Rom is played by an actor named Max Grodenchek, who I understand is a very excellent baseball player in real life. Almost went pro. Is it possible he would have played minor league ball with a young Lanny Poffo, or Randy Poffo, aka Randy Savage?
Yes.
What?
The macho.
Randy Poffo. Randy Poffo is Randy Savage, right? And Randy Savage nearly became a pro baseball player.
Nearly.
He played minor league ball. Is it possible that he crossed paths with Max Grodenchek in his day, and Max Grodenchek was bringing his best Savage, his best macho
and not
man?
Hulk Hogan. It was more Macho Man.
Maybe it was more macho.
Maybe. Yeah. Possible. Don't know that for sure. Maybe it'll come up in fun.
It's a theory. It's a theory. We're gonna test it out if we can. If we ever get a chance to ask Max Grodenchek, did you play baseball with Randy Poffo?
Right. Max Grodenchek was going to join us on the show, but we ran out of time. So we have we have the big scene here where Odo finally admits that Odo / really Curzon admits that I was in love with you, and that's why I kicked you out. And when you reapplied, I was so happy because I was able to kind of help you out. I was able to fix that mistake that I originally made based off emotion and not logic and all these different things. But he's still gonna stay in his body. That's kind of like, because we also have the scene before that where Jadzia goes to talk to Cisco, and she's like, "What is up with Curzon? Like, what do I need to do to convince him? Like, no, I need my memories back. This is messed up." Right? He's like, every time this ever happened, it was kind of different. He would either laugh and admit I was right, or he would get furious and then he would eventually admit I was right. So what do you want to do, Jadzia? Do you want to confront him, or do you want to just allow him to walk all over you? And so I do like that scene quite a bit, but from Cisco's point of view, like Jadzia is kind of going through the motions in this episode. Sorry guys. What do you guys think of that? I'm sorry, I'm talking with my hands. I got to do the Jadzia.
It's fine. How did we feel about that moment with the revelation?
Yeah.
I felt they should have leaned in and with why he actually liked her or fell in love with her. It was just basically, you're a brilliant, really good looking woman. That was basically it. That's it.
Yeah.
That seems so shallow. For someone who's so experienced.
But he's kind of a creepy old man. They really lean into that, not just in this episode, but in general. Curzon is kind of a horn dog, and he, he
died seeking Jamaharan.
Yeah, he kind of has the Tarius in him, enjoy the finer things in life and stay up all night playing Tongo.
Life's too short to deprive yourself of the simple pleasures.
Shouldn't Jadzia be more angry with him? Literally, she has had this crippling insecurity for so long, and to hear that she nearly lost what she was fighting for so long because he had a crush. She
should be really angry with him. Really, is the truth. Even though, yes, he did sort of the right thing eventually, or he tried to make up for it.
Because it was shame. It was shameful. He was ashamed. That's why he did the right thing.
And so perhaps the shame that he felt is why it's suppressed as a memory.
Maybe. Let's go with that. So it makes sense.
All right.
Okay.
Shouldn't the
then
end
we get
result
to-
of this? Okay, go ahead. I'll come.
Oh, no, go ahead, Jameel. Sorry.
No, you're getting to the plot point that I want to discuss.
I was gonna get to the Rom Nog.
Okay,
scene here
so
where
you're not going to
he
discuss
brings-
that part yet. I'll wait
Yeah,
till you
so go ahead.
discuss the Curzon Dax. You know,
the like when they like when she walks in, like he's like, "Oh, it's so great to be a changeling. This is amazing," and all this kind of stuff. Like, is that what you want to talk about?
no, I want to talk when they come to a resolution.
Okay. Okay, so she basically kind of guilts him because she should be guilting him because what he's doing is wrong and messed up. And Odo's also kind of responsible because they do say that they're both making, like, that's what Curzon / Odo says, like, it's both of us making these decisions. I
can see what you're saying. Like, there's the strong personalities have shown to take over these people's bodies. Like Cisco has a very strong personality, but Duran was able to still, you know, do things that Cisco didn't necessarily want him to do. So we're just assuming in the past when it was with Trills that they were able to you know, have an equal partnership and the person could take over. But we see in the last two instances that is not necessarily the case. We're just led to believe it.
Right. And she kind of makes the point that Jadzia and Curzon can be together again. Like that's, you know.
He's
and
like,
it's-
she's like, yeah, like, well, she's like, she's flattered that he had a crush on her, right? He's like, no, it's nice that you had this boner for me, but now that was never meant to be. We were meant to be together as the two hosts of this Dax. So
Let's be friends.
so let's just do that. If that's what it's good to,
Can
if that's
we
what
be
I have to
friends?
say to you to get you to agree to
ultimate
like, let's
friend zone.
undo this, then that's what I'll say.
She's used to friend zoning people.
Yeah,
Everyone on the station seems to fall in love with her, and she has to friend zone them. So
That's
she's
her
used to
skill.
this shit. He was probably like, "I'm in love with you," and she's like, "God damn it, not again."
so she's Mary from There's Something About Mary.
Yes.
That's a really good point, Ashley, because and it's kind of goes to what Dave said earlier that like they didn't trust her ability to have a depth of character. So it was always like, oh, she's a pretty girl, and they even say that in this episode and that's why people like that's the conflict of all her problems. She's a pretty
And
girl,
they-
and somebody falls in love with her.
Yeah, they really fucked
Yeah, go
up
ahead.
with her because she did show that she could do it when they brought Worf in, and her character became really strong after that.
Yeah, and not one dimensional, and
Right.
not like the same kind of old thing over and over with her, and so yeah, I agree. Like they kind of, I don't think they trusted the actress, but they should have, because the writing is what allows the actor to be able to really flourish with it. And if you're always giving that, well, this person was in love with you, and that's why nothing never went right for you, I think it's kind of a one-dimensional way of writing the character. They wouldn't do that for Kira, you know. So
No, because I think they look at Nana as someone who could handle some meatier drama and scenes and dialogue. Because, like I think even like Terry Farrell would admit to this, like saying like when she came in, like you know she couldn't really like match like Avery Brooks in every scene that they were in together.
Can.
Right? Well, who can, right? And so, you know, it's I think part of the tragedy and part of like the hurt feelings maybe between like the showrunners and Terry Farrell were part of like throughout like season 4 and 5 and 6, they were doing that whole Worf and Jadzia storyline, which I think was very successful and did a lot with Dax. They were giving her all this trust and everything else. And just when they got to like the pinnacle of that, she left the show because she wanted to go do Ted Danson. So, you know, I think that was like the betrayal. They're like, we helped build you.
That was not why she left the show.
I know.
Thank
I'm not
you.
saying that that's why
She
she
did
left
not
the show.
leave the show because she wanted to go and do Becker. That's not why she left the show. She left the show because of the producers.
Yep, Dave, that's what you were implying with your
Sort
statement.
of.
Yeah.
Sorry, what am I implying?
You
You
said
were
that she left
implying
the
that
show.
that right as they were giving her trust, she left the show and betrayed them. That is not what happened. They betrayed her, and she left the show.
Well,
because she wasn't going to.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that.
That's what she says. That's what she says in What We Left Behind. But if you watch that scene when she says that and you look at all the other cast members, they kind of look at her like, okay, Terry, okay, like it was about money. That's really what it comes down to. It was like they didn't want to pay her what she had earned.
Okay, well then that's a betrayal.
Right, you can say that. Right, I agree.
I think with a lot of these things,
there's
there's two sides of the story.
Yeah, like that was her decision, and I, fan, I don't care. Who gets paid. That's not my issue. And if that's why she left, that's why she left. That's the producer's fault, then so be it. But it's also her fault because she said, I don't want to do the show for blank amount of money.
I think people should get paid what they
both made that decision.
What they deserve. And if she wasn't getting that and she decides to leave, all power to her. I don't blame her.
I'm not even so much taking sides in it. I'm just saying that I think
I am.
Well, that's fine. You can do that. I'm just saying I'm not. I think that it's a contract dispute. Like at the end of the day,
Dave, if she was getting paid less than Jake,
Dave, you were saying, you were also saying that like basically when she started, she kind of sucked, and they built her up. In
their minds, I'm not saying like I'm not even saying she necessarily sucked as much as maybe she thought she sucked, but she
Right. But what I'm trying to say is that when she got to the end, she had done better, and she was the character. She made the character her own, and the writers felt that it was their responsibility, and she felt like she had a big part to play in it too.
And I think that they might have felt. I'm not saying this is the right thing, but I think they might have felt like she owed them for helping build up her career. Is that not possible?
They could do it a certain way, but I think their feeling is wrong. But
it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. I'm saying it's possible it was part of the story. So it's like it doesn't matter whether we approve of it. It's just it's like it's just a matter of whether how they saw the situation at the time.
But if you start your first job out of college and they're paying you minimum wage and you do well and you're there for 6 years and you start doing all this new stuff and you're like, hey, it's time for a raise. And your company is like, no, we built you up. Fuck you. You owe us. We're going to pay you crap.
You don't need to make the point to me. I'm not taking their side. I'm just looking at the perspective of them.
No, but I'm arguing against that perspective.
Okay. Yeah. When you have an ensemble cast as big as Deep Space Nine or the Avengers, or you have a sports team, somebody's going to get paid the least amount of money.
Unless they band together and demand that the people who are underpaid get their rightful due.
If they're like
did that happen? Did the DS9 cast stand up for Dax and Terry Farrell? Did they?
Doesn't seem like it.
Let's trash them too. Where were you, Cisco? Where's that jazz hands fixing the situation?
So they just they got another pretty face to replace her because that's how they thought of her.
Well, yeah, and that's a great point, Dave, because that is how they thought of her. But she was more than that because they didn't trust the writing for some reason with her, and it's just like we'd rather do the Nana Visitor episodes, the Kira episodes, than the Dax episodes. And I like the character Dax. She's more interesting than Kira. Like Kira has some kind of boring episodes.
Okay? When they gave her more meaty stories, her character got so much better. Like she rose to that occasion as an actress.
So in retrospect, isn't the issue the fact that the poor writing of Dax led to the underwhelming of the character, and when the writing got better, we were able to see that the actress was able to rise to that same level. So
I agree with that.
In retrospect, what they should have done was get better writers, and then they wouldn't have had this problem in the first place, and then also pay her the money too. They could have done both.
They could have.
Okay,
and
we're all in agreement. Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about how Proud Papa Rom bringing Nog into Quarks with his uniform on without a comm badge.
A little premature.
How proud? What's that?
It's a little premature.
It's kind of like bringing in your son that's not in the military yet, and he's already got like the full uniform on.
Or he's like he's going to the police academy and he's already dressed like a cop and like a full thing. Like
But all he's done is sent in his application.
Yeah.
So he's Hightower, not Hightower. Who was Huckleberry? Who was basically pretending to be a cop, even though he was still in. You know who I'm talking about? The one who had all the guns.
Yes, Tackleberry.
Tackleberry, yes.
Tackleberry.
He's basically in cosplay.
Okay, and that's pretty much, other than the root beer moment where Nog orders a root beer in court.
Wait, Dave, what did you think of Garrick's job on Nog's uniform? Does it pass?
It's okay. I would have included a replica comm badge. I don't know what Rom paid for it, but I'm thinking it was pretty good. So it was, not cheap. I thought it looked all right. I thought it was a nice gesture. This particular cadet uniform was new when we saw it. It was a little different than the one like Wesley Crusher had worn in the first duty. So that was kind of neat. I thought just to see like sort of this update on what the cadets are wearing these days.
I have to say, I like Nog way more than Wesley Crusher, even though he's not as smart, especially according to O'Brien.
I think that makes us like him more because Nog's way more relatable, than a Wesley Crusher, who's like a savant, a boy genius, right? Like,
he's the valedictorian,
Yeah, most of us aren't the valedictorian.
Right. Okay. Then we get kind of the final scene where Odo goes to talk to Dax. And I actually really like this scene because Odo and Dax don't really have a relationship. I mean, throughout the whole show, they don't have a lot to do with each other. And I think
it's actually implied that they do because she sneaks into his quarters all the time and moves his furniture around.
Right. She messes. She's a prankster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on screen, they don't do a lot.
No.
I'm messing with God.
And they would probably get close after with Odo and Kira because she is close with Kira.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Isn't it strange that as adventurous as Jadzia Dax is, there was never like, I wonder how a changeling is. Okay.
I think she just like, I'm not going there with Odo.
Yeah, I don't think Odo has the right personality for her.
Maybe another changeling would be her type, but not this changeling.
Okay, that's a great point that you just brought up, Jameel, because
Thank you.
Odo says, what Odo says to Dax here, it's like, I never realized like why you humans love to stay up all night playing Tongo and eating and sleeping and all these different things. Basically, he's not interested in the finer things in life, as Torias would say.
Simple pleasures.
Simple pleasures, whatever. He's more interested in, detective work and logic, and he's got, but I do think that these two characters are the best representations of Spock on Star Trek. That, like since Spock, you know what I mean? Like we have the Odo kind of
stoic,
no emotion, stoic, not really interested in being human, but
isolated.
But knows that he is kind of human. And then we get the Dax angle of it that's kind of got all these religious feelings towards her culture, and we're learning about that culture all the time when we do find out about her, like when we get the odd episode, kind of like with Spock when we get the odd mock time, same kind of deal. So I do think that it's kind of the meeting of the Spocks, and it's kind of interesting because Terry Farrell's married to Leonard Nimoy's son. So yeah, very interesting. Anything else about this final scene that you guys take?
I just thought it was really solid, really good.
My only issue is after this episode where basically she's joined back with someone who loves her or is in love with her, she didn't feel freer to be more flamboyant or like, this looks good on me. I know it looks good on me. And she like,
she could have leaned in a bit more on that.
I'm just saying, like, she's like, I'm wearing red today,
Spending an extra few minutes in the sonic shower every morning.
Right.
I wasn't going that far, but hey.
This whole thing where she like knows what's now like it is to be a changeling. She has like some of those memories now from hers.
Or she's more sympathetic to Julian. It's like, I know how it feels to love me. and not have me.
But she also knows how to screw with Odo now, right? Because she knows what Odo doesn't like about his shape-shifting furniture. So that's
why she moves it around.
She moves it around.
So she gets him back. Remember when you had all my Curzon memories and you wouldn't give them back, Odo? I'll get even. That's Jadzia. That's not Curzon. That's Jadzia.
There could have been a whole bunch of funny plot points that came out of this.
Yeah.
Lower Decks, come on, please.
Come on.
Like the whole.
I know. Lower Decks. We're expecting Lower Decks to do a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lower Decks, do us the second part of this episode. But
yeah, redo this. If they
Is Jeff frozen?
He might be.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
I could use this time to talk about Lower Decks and how I wish they could just go back and just redo. They need 2 separate Lower Decks series. They need one that just continues what Lower Decks is doing, and then also I'm trying to be as quick as possible before it comes back.
Whoa, hold on. We'll make it quick here. Show. Okay, hold on.
Wait. Let me keep going. In the meantime, and then a second Lower Decks series where they can just recap and redo past plot points that I wish they went in a different direction, like an Elsewheres. Okay, Jeff, you can continue. Welcome back.
Sorry.
Like a Star Trek What If?
Yes, that would be so awesome.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Like what
That
if
would be awesome.
Jadzia never died? Okay.
Hey, they can still do that.
That'd be awesome.
What are okay? So let's go into fun facts.
Okay.
Not to be confused with details discovered by Dave.
Oh, not to be okay. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Okay, number one.
Sorry.
The scenes involving the scenes involving Cisco as Duran had to be shot twice because the producers were unhappy with the first set of dailies. The reason for this was they felt Avery Brooks's performance was, quote, too creepy.
Okay, so this is the pulled back version. We got the pulled back version here.
Back version, guys.
Oh my god.
Have you been find that tape?
How intense did he make this? You're a pretty girl. Oh, I'm gonna play it.
You're a very pretty girl, Jadzia.
He wanted an Emmy.
Pretty.
Very pretty.
He wanted an Emmy. He was like, Anthony Hopkins won it for Hannibal Lecter. I'm getting it for this one.
I'm even suspicious of the word pretty now after that.
Oh, now you are.
It's the way he says it.
Pretty.
Oh, now you are.
Jadzia.
Jadzia, do you think of me when you play your music? I'm glad.
Does it look like Mike Myers could probably do like a parody performance of this?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm glad.
I didn't finish this fun fact.
Sorry.
According to visual effects supervisor Gary Hutzel, Brooks spoke in an almost inaudible whisper. So he went, pretty Jadzia.
Get back in there, Avery, and do it again. Do it better.
Yeah.
Release the
At least
dailies.
we can hear you this time.
Yeah. Release the dailies. We need those.
Okay. To achieve Odo's new look after he embodied Curzon, makeup designer Michael Westmore got a photograph of an actor, Frank Owen Smith, who had portrayed Curzon in Emissary, and digitally morphed it onto Odo's makeup.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was digital. Okay. Odon / Curzon orders Tranya in Quark's bar. This is apparently the same drink served by Balak to Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, and Lieutenant Bailey aboard the Facets in Star Trek: The Original Series episode "The Corbinite Maneuver."
It's Balak.
It even appears. It even appears to be the same color, and nobody cares about your grammar.
Well, maybe they made some contact with the First Federation.
It definitely looked like peach juice.
Here's some Tranya. I hope you relish it as much as I. Actually, that kid sounds a lot like Avery Brooks in this episode.
You're very pretty. Very pretty. Jadzia.
Virad Dox, the hijacked Trill host from Invasive Procedures, does not appear as one of the Dax's former hosts during the Zentara.
Where was John Glover?
The reasons behind this are left unexplained in this episode, but it may be that Virad never fully joined and therefore isn't really a part of the Dax symbiote. It's like,
Yeah,
like had it for a day, you know,
because it went into him and then went back into Jadzia. So maybe it's just kind of wrapped up in Jadzia's memories. So maybe when we never got to see Ezri's Jintara. They never did that on her in that 7th season,
which is surprising because almost every episode is about her.
Yeah,
and they could have brought like not Terry Farrell back, but they could have had somebody pretend to be Jadzia through a host.
Odo, and then he morphs into Terry Farrell.
or maybe when Ezri has her Jintara, she would meet John Glover and Terry Farrell, because they're kind of wrapped up into one a little bit.
They morph into like an amalgamation.
Yeah, amalgamation of those two faces. It'd be a little scary.
No, Jadzia or Odo houses Jadzia, and then Odo and Worf together.
Oh, that's disturbing.
Lower Decks, we're writing the season for you.
Do you think like Odo would have went to Worf and said, "I know you miss Jadzia, and I could have her memories put into me, and then I can become like a hybrid of me and her. I've done it before." How disturbing do you think Worf would be?
Can I please have a scene where Odo is brushing Worf's hair?
Where Odo's the Audrin character? Oh my god. Yeah. It would have just been better if Odo had been all the hosts instead of them passing it around to the different actors.
Wait, Duran as Odo?
Yeah, just Rene Auberjonois plays every one of these. Like it would have been
a serial killer in a killing machine's body.
It would have been like that one with Brent Spiner and Faces, where you had to play all the different masks and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the scene involving O'Brien as Tobin, Jadzia mentions that Tobin had, quote, the most original approach to the proof since Wiles over 300 years ago. Regarding Tobin's work on Fermat's last theorem, this appears to be a nod to Wiles' solution to Fermat's last theorem, which had just been published a month before the airing of this episode. The mathematical formula had previously been mentioned in Captain Jean-Luc Picard's in TNG The Royale, who referred to it as having remained unsolved for over 800 years.
Sorry.
Okay. You're welcome. This episode originated with Ira Stephen Bear, his desire to do a version of the 1976 Daniel Petrie television movie Sybil in the sphere of DS9. Sybil was a psychological study of a woman played by Sally Field who, due to traumatic childhood, suffered from an extreme form of multiple personality disorder and had at least 13 different personalities. Bear thought that this would be a fascinating approach from which to examine Jadzia in a new light, and he assigned Rene Echeverria to write the teleplay. However, at first, Echeverria couldn't shake the notion that if Dax suddenly started to experience resurgence of her past hosts, there would need to be a reason why. In the case of Sybil, it was a dark psychological trauma in her past, but Dax had already had one such trauma revealed this season in Equilibrium, and Echeverria felt that it would be unacceptable to present viewers with another nasty experience from her past. Echeverria next came up with the idea for the Jintara ritual, but originally the ritual involved simply the suppression of the Jadzia hosts and the resurgence of the former hosts, one at a time within Terry Farrell. This meant, however, that the episode was essentially going to focus on Terry Farrell, with her simply playing different various characters, and Echeverria was unhappy with this because it meant that there could be no interaction between Jadzia and the previous host.
They weren't happy with it because they didn't believe in her, Jeff.
Okay. Once she became
it's my theory.
Host, he said, quote, once she became each host, it was kind of okay. Let's sit back and watch Dax be this person now. There was no true interaction between Jadzia and that host, end quote. It was then that Echeverria hit on the idea of using the cast regulars to embody the various hosts.
Coward.
Ow.
It could have been a really cool episode for Terry Farrell, you know, to do all those different characters.
Coward child.
Sorry.
Patience, child.
She'll have her time. She'll have her time.
This is the last episode of the series to be directed by Cliff Bull.
What happened to him?
I don't know.
All right.
This episode continues the plot involving Nog's attempts to get into Starfleet, which began in Heart of Stone. It also continues the evolution of Rom's tendency to stand up to Quark, which also began in that episode. So, what do you guys think of that?
Looks like he went on to do a lot of Voyager Cliff Bull, including the episode Tuvix.
Oh, let's see. Very similar. We just second Tuvix message mentioned here.
Yeah, but we need I wonder if he did any Babylon 5. I'm gonna find out.
Janeway is a cold-blooded murderer. Okay.
He's never had to scrounge that much for food.
You could also argue maybe Jadzia is a bit of a murderer here. You know. But
No, because you're saying like the new Odo Curzon is like a new life.
She killed Curzon, sort of.
But they both separate pretty easily, and they're both like they were able to. I don't know how to.
I want to make an important point here about actually a line of dialogue in this episode. At one point, I think it's Cisco says like, "Oh yeah, Curzon was a great guy," and Jadzia kind of corrects him and says, "Yeah, he is." So she still believes that he's alive. You know, like through her. You know, like that's the whole idea. Okay. This episode reuses elements from Jadzia's past already established in previous episodes. Leela and Duran have been mentioned in Equilibrium. Jadzia's troubled initiation, eliminated by Curzon and then reapplying, was first mentioned in Playing God. Ebony and Audred and Tarius would be mentioned again in subsequent episodes. Well, just more stuff there. The uniform Rom had made for Nog had a comm badge when it was in the gift box, but Nog wore it to the party without the comm badge. This was the first appearance of the gray Starfleet cadets uniforms, albeit not one issued by Starfleet. The real one, which indeed is the same design, appears in Homefront. There's a uniform.
So, but it's the same thing. It's just this is what was a replica. You're saying?
Is it?
He was cosplaying.
He was cosplaying.
Okay, so Mark Barrett portrayed the background Ferengi Lonzo in this episode. His costume was sold off at an online auction and was previously worn by Lee Ehrenberg in the episode The Negus.
Is he related to Majel Barrett?
Maybe. Okay, and finally, guys, this is the final episode as Cisco in the rank of commander. He's going to be captain next episode.
It's happening. And we're going to celebrate. It's going to be, and they all a few of them, they all get promoted actually pretty soon. Not in the episode. I guess it will be for the season 4 premiere where Dax and who else? I think Bashir gets promoted from lieutenant junior grade to full lieutenant. So that's exciting.
Okay, well, that's it for Double F with Jeff.
All right. Well, let's get some ratings going on here. Oh, that's the wrong picture to take down. Here we go. Bring it up. Jeff, you want to start us off here with Facets?
I think I like this episode. I'll give it an 8.
I'll give this an 8.5.
I'll give it a 8.1.
9.
9.
Gotta stop taking my ratings. You gotta put me first.
All right.
9.
9. All right, it's an 8.5 average between the 5 of us tonight. It's pretty good. That's definitely brought up the season 3 average. And good old Cliff Bull. As we wind down this 3rd season, I'm calling this a Dax/Nog storyline. All right, and Jeff, next week we have the Adversary to finish off season 3.
Yep, we're getting into the Dominion.
Do you remember that episode being good?
Yeah, it is good. It's good finale.
It's a kind of like I never thought of it as a finale episode, but it is. I was a little surprised by that.
It does kind of like not stand out as the finale because all the other finales are really good, but it's needed. It's such a major transition. Like he becomes the captain. There's a lot of stuff with the Dominion that gets set up that needs to happen. So yeah.
Well, it's also like we're 2 episodes away from Worf showing up. We haven't really talked a lot about that either.
Well,
That he's.
I do think that this finale feels like a premiere, like next week's.
Yeah.
It feels more like a premiere.
The Adversary.
Yeah.
Right. Because like you think of the Way of the Warrior, which is a premiere. It's a 2-parter. That's what's going to be happening after that. Where he goes full Hawk. He's not just a captain, but he has no hair on the top of his head anymore. And now Worf is here. To join the crew, and it's a whole new day. And the Klingons Gowron's going to be back in the mix. It's an exciting time. Whoa. Come on, like the soundboard is going to be full of Gowron soon.
You Batzak!
It's going to be Gowron at 9-ish.
Yeah, it's going to be Gowron at 9-ish.
I want big eyes. Everyone's big eyes and expressions.
Glory to you and your house.
And to think they had to tell Avery Brooks to dial back the creepy.
Yeah,
Gowron, amp it up.
Remember that comedic character that was set up in the House of Quark? He'll be back.
Okay, yeah. So next we have the Adversary. Dave, what do we have on all of our podcast networks?
Well, here on Live Long and Podcast, we talk about Star Trek in all forms, all over the place. We've been doing different podcasts to cover the different shows, both past and first run as they air. So on Mondays, formerly Wednesdays, we were covering Star Trek, the original series, covering every episode in order, or not in order, sorry. Last night we just did That Which Survives, which was a 3rd season episode. So you can go into all the back catalog. If there's an original series episode you want to watch, you can find out our opinion podcast to go with it. Same with like the Star Trek movies. And of course, Deep Space Nine, which we've been filling in and doing more of. There's other shows that we will be doing, including like Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Enterprise, and some other things as well. Voyager is probably going to happen in the distant future. Plus, next month, Jeff, Star Trek Lower Decks coming back. August 12th, we'll be covering that. Jameel, and we'll have some special guests to help us cover the different episodes. They're going to be airing on Thursdays on CTV Sci-Fi, as well as Paramount Plus in the States, and Star Trek Discovery after that, Star Trek Picard after that. Lots of different things. Plus, Star Trek Radio Theater will be coming back off of hiatus in the near future, as we're going to be doing the episode Cause and Effect as our next episode.
Good episode. Data figures out what to do because Riker was right.
Right. The whole thing. They have to die over and over again because they can't imagine that Riker's suggestion is better than Data's.
Also very similar to Loki. Time loops.
Time loops.
Yep.
And different things. And Kelsey Grammer shows up.
But no one's hitting the balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's
we have tossed salad and scrambled eggs with Kelsey Grammer showing up for the end too. Plus, Jeff, we have Super Mater Brothers podcasting.
Yes,
Jameel. We have that other channel, and like we're there 3 times a week talking about Big Brother USA season 23. Check that out every Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday as that show airs on CBS and Global in Canada. Jameel's got his key right there. You can check that out. It's quite the season so far. It's never too late. If you look at Frenchie, he's a contender.
Frenchie's going home.
What did you say? Contender
he's
or
more of
tender?
a chicken tender, I believe. He's not
chicken strips.
Yeah, he's not doing chicken so strips. Well.
Oh my God, I'm on the block.
So check that.
Oh my God. That's how we talk.
Plus, we on Super Mario Brothers podcast. We also talked about Marvel Cinematic Universe. We just did Loki, as we've been talking about, Black Widow. We've done WandaVision and different things. So with our different panels, Ashley's and Jameel and Jeff and different people participating in those. And then I think that's everything for Super Mario Brothers podcasting. Plus, Jeff, Trivial Debates, our 3rd channel, where this Sunday you're competing. In this edition of Trivial Debates with Michael Connor hosting. Are you excited?
Answers are in, and none of them doubled with Jody, so I know I'm right.
What category are you most excited to argue about or to discuss?
Oh, trying to remember the questions.
I think it's the history question. No, wild card question. The wild card question.
What was the wild card question again?
What conspiracy theory is most likely to be true? That seemed to be one that was up your alley. You're gonna hit. You better win that one. We'll be disappointed in you.
I can't. I don't know what Mike O'Connor thinks. I never even met him, so I'm just gonna make my case for my thing. And
you got this, Jeff.
You got this, Jeff. You can do it. You can represent Tuesday.
Okay, I'll do
it.
I don't. Tuesday.
The Tuesday podcast, right against those Monday night guys, Jody and Adam.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, they're going down.
It was a reach, Dave. I don't know if that was good.
Yeah, I don't know if that was good. Maybe if you throw a bass line over it, a little singing.
No, I don't got anything like that. Sorry.
I like it.
Slapping the bass.
Slapping the bass.
Slapping the bass.
I have Outback Steakhouse. That was about it.
What?
All the fixings.
Wood, fire grilled, Outback steak. Plus the brand new Outback Steakhouse Margarita, the grilled pineapple Rita.
Baked potato.
All the fixins. All the fixins. Do the fixins one. Do it. You know.
Baked potato. All the fixins.
I can smell it.
I love the way he says baked potato.
Smell it. That was disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
I cannot wait till we got to see some buffs back in action.
Yeah, we haven't done Survivor in so long. It's been a while.
I'm not excited. 26 days is not. I don't know. I want to see the scene. I want to see it, but like 26 days. What are they doing? Anyway.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. So is that it? Are we done here with facets?
We're done.
Have we come at this from a multifaceted point of view?
I think we have.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, good. So, all right, next week we have Adversary. Join us then.
The Adversary.
I have been your host, Jeff Mader. For all of us here, Dave Mader, Jameel Robinson, and the tag team couple, Kevin and Ashley Millard. Live long and podcast.